Marine Corps memoirs. Please help me welcome John McKay.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it. I'll probably say this more than a couple of times this evening, but I am truly honored.
We're honored, sir.
Thank you. I'm honored to be among the best, but I'm honored to be among young, vivacious veterans that show me the Marine Corps has a wonderful and great future. Provost and Mrs. Hensler, Dean and Mrs. Scaldra, Mr. Driscoll, Ms. Paris, distinguished guests, whom I cannot but discern are all but synonymous with the word Marine. I am honored. Allow me to also acknowledge historian and former director of the International Institute for Strategic Studies, the late Honorable Alistair Francis Buchan, for inspiring some of the thoughts that I'm going to share with you this evening. Colonel McCarthy mentioned my experience in being selected as an OSED scholar. Actually, I had a worse experience when I came back and said that I wanted to finish and get a master's degree at Georgetown University. I had to have permission from the Marine Corps, although I was doing it on my own. 38 years ago, as a combat seasoned captain of infantry, I was counseled by a revered senior officer, highly decorated, deeply esteemed. I had served with him or under him in war. I was to serve with him again. He was a professional Marine to the Corps and a consummate gentleman. He bluntly told me that the pursuit of my master's degree, an endeavor I was undertaking on my own while committed very, very deeply to duties, he told me it was a waste of my time. Advanced, refined education for today's officer corps can no longer be treated as a nice-to-have frill. For all of recorded history, and I'm sure before recorded history, the four horsemen of the apocalypse, war, death, pestilence, famine, have ridden stirrup to stirrup as causes of human misery and political change. Of the four, war still rides a glossy steed, foddered by many of the advances that have weakened its companions. The war horse remains still a charger, which casts a long shadow. The design of its bit and bridle should become the principal, if not the principal, preoccupations of statesmen, military officers, and learned thinkers. The study of the causes of war as contrasted with its course or its conduct is a modern preoccupation dating no earlier than from the age of enlightenment. And the degree of attention that we have grown accustomed to pay to the subject is more recent still. For it is coterminous not only with the rising sense of fear and horror of the last century, but with the serious growth of the study of the social and political sciences. One author states, that the study of war resembles that of economics. We have made some progress in mastering the intricacies of economics, not so much so in the study of war and the preservation of peace. In fact, I argue here in the United States, it was not until the dawn of the nuclear age that the study of war and peace commanded anywhere near the intellectual attention that the study of economics did. Suffice it to say that the incident of war today, the state of play in the study of war, rising Far Eastern powers, and Russia, as noted by General Joseph Dunford, U.S. Marine Corps, during his 9 July Chairman Joint Chiefs of Staff confirmation hearings. It behooves the military services and their leadership to engender and ensure a thorough advanced education, liberal and enlightened, that allows for the study of war. That, I offer, is done only through advanced education, as in any other endeavor to come to grips with the dynamics of human social behavior. The field of strategic studies, that is, the analysis of force in international relations, has not found its own John Maynard Keynes. Can we isolate strategic studies, as economists have done with varying success, from the problems of human organization and international relations? War is a product of the clash of ideas and beliefs. Ideas are not to be grappled with, much less understood, unless the cultures from which they emanate are understood. Cultures, on the other hand, cannot, and I will say that adamantly, cannot be understood other than through an in-depth knowledge of the culture's language. Second, history must be a handmaiden of those who would be policy shapers. Those who ignore or eschew the importance of ideas and beliefs as propellants of human action are on a fool's errand. Conversely, to comprehend and understand human cultures requires a grounding in such diverse disciplines as anthropology, sociology, social sciences, brain sciences, psychology, and much else. The tragic consequences of ignoring these tenets are readily found in my own country's misadventures in Vietnam, Lebanon, and the Middle East today. The ignominy of Vietnam lingers still. El Salvador and Honduras have deteriorated it into a state of near lawlessness, engulfed by drug violence arguably attributable to the United States' earlier interventions. The legendary Gertrude Bell, a British female colonial official who a century ago made herself indispensable in a man's world, correctly remarked of the British mandate over what was to become Iraq, and I quote, "Can you persuade people to take your side when you are not sure in the end whether you will be there to take theirs?" Prescient words, fluent in Persian and Arabic, she had an uncanny knowledge of the region's history. She was also the first female to receive first-class honors in history from Oxford University. Owing to conventions of the time, women were not allowed to matriculate and graduate from university. That did not happen in Great Britain until 1920. That's less than 100 years ago. Amazing. A telling example, I suggest, of failing to groom the best that a nation has to offer. And it's for these reasons, and a myriad more, we must oblige the officer corps be exposed to bastions of advanced learning wherein the multiplicity of vagaries and propensities we call humankind can be studied and analyzed. Thus can national military organizations effectively execute their primary function within society. To do otherwise is anachronistic and dangerously gambles with the future. The challenges facing each and every one in this gathering this evening are progress and consequential. Technology and all that it portends is just one area of interest. We Americans are consummate experts on concentrating on technology to win wars. Just as example, look at research into electromagnetic pulse warfare, information dominance, advanced IT systems, amazingly susceptible to cheap hacking, very expensive hardware, and I can go on. We Americans are good at technology. It is good we continue to enhance in those areas where we have a comparative advantage. Recall as well, however, that if destructive technology amplifies violence, constructive technology amplifies compassion. And the lessons of technology are universal. One of those lessons is that technological teleology is not, I repeat, is not an accurate yardstick of actual product performance. However, is it not ironic that the study and learning, and yes, the entrepreneurial spirit that have brought forth all these wonders might not have been directed a bit more on the software? Specifically, we have given short shift to the ideas, beliefs, motivations, and dreams of human beings. We have forsaken history to the dusty and sterile realms of academia. I worry we view foreign languages as just another adjunct, excuse me, in the tool fixer's box. Never mind that language proficiency takes time to inculcate, not teach, inculcate. and constant attention to maintain. And history, you ask? Something to be pursued as one's whims might suggest, but certainly not, in the words of Sir Winston Churchill, to get the root of the matter into oneself. One could do worse than ponder Rudyard Kipling's lines about the irregulars during the 1898-1899 Sudan campaign. We sloshed you with martinis, and it wasn't hardly fair. But for all the odds again you broke the British square. For all those younger than I am, which I'm quite pleased to say is everyone present this evening, my wife excepted, of course, the referred to martini is not of the liquid variety. Rather, it reflects the advanced technology of the era, the Martini Henry rifle. And ladies and gentlemen, officers of the mess, U.S. Marines have captured, within the last 4 years, a few Martini Henry rifles from the Taliban in Afghanistan. Good technology. This raises another interesting consideration. What about the adversary who doesn't play fair? Americans too readily forget that is exactly what we did at Bunker Hill on June 17, 1775, much to the chagrin of Generals Sir William Howe and Thomas Gage. Might I suggest that we Americans have been caught out on this score more than once since World War II. The American square, allowing that our former colonial masters permit me the use of square absent the correct annotation, has been cracked on more than one occasion since World War II. That not need to have happened. Might it have been averted if we in the military had made the necessary concerted effort and adjustments to the education of the officer corps? Lay aside for a moment professional military education. Important though it is, and I'm including the war colleges here, think in broader terms, please, like Stanford, Johns Hopkins University, Naval Postgraduate School, Georgetown University, and a host of others, to prepare our officers, to prepare our country for the challenges of today and the unknowns of tomorrow. As Lord of the Admiralty, Winston Churchill noted of the Royal Navy on the eve of World War I, and I quote, "The Royal Navy," quote, "was not mute because it was absorbed in thought and study, but because it was weighed down by its daily routine and by its ever-complicating and diversifying technique. We had competent administrators, brilliant experts of every description, unequaled navigators, good disciplinarians, fine sea officers, brave and devoted hearts. But at the outset of the conflict, we had more captains of ships than we had captains of war." Apropos these words, may I suggest the recent Naval Postgraduate Report, Navy Strategy Development, Strategy in the 21st Century, out of this institution. I suggest that report, take a look at it, reflects, in modern words to be sure, the concerns of the First Lord of the Admiralty on the eve of World War I. In today's world, our captains of war need to be absorbed in thought and study that can come only through advanced education and the mastery of language. And I'm not speaking here about DLI or Rosetta Stone, although they are wonderful for what they do and what they purport to do. Rather, I'm talking about acculturated immersion. And history, by all means, really understand history or stumble about blindly. Foremost, strive to understand human nature. Advanced education of the Officer Corps is not mere luxury, but an absolute. Anything short of taking this on board is foolish and perilous. Thank you.